I'm going to go to min array, turn that on, go to indirect lighting, create an image-based light, and I'm going to grab one of those, and I want to try this one first because I was, there it goes. So there's my initial, there's a problem with this. What is my problem with this image? Use your eyes, people. What's the problem with that image? I got a tree out in the middle of the ocean. That's the problem, right? Like if I'm pointing this, but then there's the ocean over here. So if I go to rotate, wrong, and I go to the IBL, I can select rotate Y and middle mouse drag on that, and I can rotate it so that I have the ocean spit out like so, which just seems a lot better. However, it looks like I'm a little bit above where I want my horizon line to be. Other things, you notice that I have post obscuring the ocean. I'm going to leave that for a second, but basically, I'm going to stop doing the rhetorical questions. I'm going to use Photoshop to clean up these HDRIs. If there's stuff going through my horizon line, like people, posts, or mountains, I'm going to use my stamp tool and I'm going to get rid of them. So there's, right, you're going to have to do some photo editing on this. Let me put on a resolution gate, camera setting, resolution gate. And really, I don't want to do 640 by 480. I hate 640 by 480. I like HD 720. And then I'll make it really like, I mean, maybe like, I could do something like that. I've been doing, like, normally I've been doing it like this. Like I've done like 3 lighthouses like this. But, right, the camera doesn't have to be in the same position each time. I'm going to rotate it like so. And by placing the camera here, do I need to, like, mess with all those things that I've already been messing with? Like, that sentence made no sense. By positioning the camera here, I do not have to texture certain things, right? I could spend more time on my lighthouse. And maybe that's more of the shot. If I turned the camera here, does it matter if I need to get rid of the trees in the background that I have? It would still matter because the trees are so outsized from the lighthouse. I want to get rid of that stuff. And I'd have to Photoshop it pretty extensively. And what I'd probably do is take these clouds and shove them back here. Look, see? Yay. So here's one where I've got the lighthouse like so. Like I'm looking at the lighthouse this way, which is different than I've done it before. And that seems exciting. Right? So I'm not really close to the lighthouse anymore. I'm going to do this view. This shape right here is a camera. Okay? So, and I like the way I've kind of rotated this. So this is now turned into like daytime at the tourist beach. I position the camera exactly the way I want. And you know what? When you get the camera positioned, what should you do to it? Lock it. Because like you get this on a show or certain things, you may not be doing a lot more with this lighthouse. Maybe this is just put together for, like you need it for like 1 or 2 shots. If it's the headquarters that the people, like, you know how we were watching the animatic of Iron Man? Right? That's his bat cave. Ooh. you know? So that's where he hangs out. And Superman, what does he have? Fortress of Solitude. So maybe this is Captain Lighthouse's place. I don't know. Let's see how it looks with a render. And I don't want to wait 5 years for this to render. I'm going to go render, test resolution. I'll do it at maybe 50%. I'm not turning up my anti-aliasing quality. But I think I do want final gather. Let's do a quick render. So, things that are slightly problematic to me right now, even though I kind of like this. I like how it halos this lighthouse. But I'm worried about whether the photo of the background will resolve at HD. This is one of the problems of buying low or just stealing HDRs off the internet versus spending like $70 on one, is that if I need this to absolutely be clear in the background and be super, super sharp, if it's not sharp right now, it's not going to get sharper later. So to check that, I'm going to select all this geometry right here. And I'm going to put it on a display layer. Right, so there it is. And now I'm going to go and turn my features up, and I'm going to see how this renders. Because I don't want to come back later and be like, that wasn't good enough. So 2 by 0.025 at Mitchell. I don't need ray tracing. I just need it to render. And I'm going to turn this back up to render test resolution, and I'll render it full res. It's a little gnarly. Like if I look at this and it could definitely be better. I'm seeing, while I see nice, interesting things there, this little section, let me try it with the other one. See if I get it better. So this is a much bigger high dynamic range image. And now I'm going to hit render. And look at this. Did I say? I hope I saved the last one. Of course not. So look how clean the clouds are in this versus the other one, which I'll reload one more time. Right? The clouds here and they're two very different pictures, but this picture is obviously optically sharper. It's not the main point of my image, but I might have to think about it. It's also way more dramatic. Cancel render view. So what are limitations of this technique? You're stuck with somebody else's photo. You're stuck with someone else's photo. You got to buy a photo, or you have to You have to buy a photo, you have to take a photo. That means you're a photographer. The kit to do HDRs is not cheap. It's not free, right? Or pay someone to go take HDRs. Another way to create a background would be to not have an HDR image per se, right? What if like you're like, what would be another option? Argon. I'm not going to use an HDR because it's not doing what I want. But I found photos that do what I want. What would be another way to go about creating a background? Yeah, it's pretty good. Argon's like, what are you doing? But in Hollywood, there has been a methodology, or at least a term that people use for fake backgrounds and scenes. And the name is matte painting. Matte painting. M-A-T-T-E. But the matte painting is part of the lighting scenario, right? So because, right, I'm talking about how the foreground and the background might be resolved. Like, if you had Frodo and Sam walking up a hill, and it's not like there's crazy volcano crap going on in the background. Just in the modern day, that matte painting can be, quote unquote, a moving matte painting. That's how some people would sell the special effect. But that people aren't always going to have high dynamic range images to light up things. It's just one technique among several. And so, if necessary, you could paint clouds or collage clouds into a new background. But then you would be lighting up the scene in a different way. You know? Well, the light would not be coming from the photo itself. The light would have to come from other sources. Probably some modification of physical sun and sky. You know? Or maybe there's some spotlight throwing in extra light. But and the purpose of doing the high dynamic range image is it not only has the image, and the image can reflect, but that that also the lights are coming from it. That's the other purpose. So I'm going to, so this is on. Like so. And now I'm going to turn on the geometry again. Another thing I need to do, I got to make sure that this is happening. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to turn on, I'm actually going to turn something off. My bad. Common tab. I need to make sure that my render options default lights is off. Let's see how that looks. Because I don't want the default lights to do anything. So there's my beginning of my render. And I think I'm going to just keep it the way it is, right? I'm not going to worry about if the clouds are sharp enough. I'm going to say that that's pretty good. Someone put some sort of horrible texture on here. I'm going to get rid of it and do my own. And what else do we need to do on this? I think I'm going to select all this geometry, and I'm going to put a Everything except for this. I'll take this and put it on its own layer. Take all this geometry and I'll put an MIA shader on this because I want to do a middle ray workflow as much as possible. Is that entirely necessary? Probably not, but it makes it easy on me because then I know everything's functioning. I'm going to do matte finish. Replace. I'll render it again. I'm seeing some sort of light and final gathering being emitted. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to indirect lighting, image-based lighting, and I'm going to turn on light emission, emit light, hit render. I think it's going to blow out the entire scene right now. Right? It's too much. So I'm going to turn it down because it's blowing it out. I had this problem earlier with an HDR where I did emit light. And then I'm going to go adjust light emission. And I'm going to take the color gain and pull it down, and I'm going to render it again. So it's taking a bit, but right, it's now looking like the light is coming from the HDRI. And I told it to emit light, which I think is important in a high dynamic range image. Like, right, I'm trying to get lighting content. It's looking kind of snowy. Just because of all the gray I put in there. Because they had put these really horrible textures on them, and I did not like the texture that was on there. It's still plowing through the render. Now, one thing I'm noticing up here is, see how the clouds are kind of like rough? Maybe you remember we talked about render layers? If the light's good for this, maybe I go back and I make a painting of this for the background, right? That's kind of there, but I soup it up. Like I take a picture. I have like a bunch of pictures of clouds, and I'll steal clouds off the internet, and I'll just stamp them in to try and get more detail. We'll see if that works, but another thing is, I think I'm going to put depth of field on this, and we'll see where it goes. But I'm gonna escape. I don't need to render any more of this. This took 2 minutes and 56 seconds. So let's say the background is good enough for now. Things I did. I chose an HDRI image. An HDRI image is a redundant. It should be HDR. And I'm not super happy with the background, but I am happy with the lighting. I'm not happy with this. See this right here? That's like where background is. So I'm going to go to Photoshop. Easy. Why? It looks like this stuff is what's causing me a problem right here. So I'm going to go and show pixel grid. I got rid of the pixel grid. I'll go to Stamp Tool. I'll get my trusty Wacom pen. I'll get rid of this stuff. And also maybe I get rid of this stuff. Another thing that would be good to, like, I talked about render layers. Yes. Things I can do in my composite package is I could make a matte painting where I can make the clouds just move ever so slightly. It is way, way, way faster to make your clouds move ever so slightly in a 3D composite package than it is to try and think of a 3D way to generate it. And if I was going to generate clouds in a 3D method, I would probably use Vue. If I had the choice, I'd use Vue. It's got the best clouds that I've seen. You don't have to think about it. You can just make really good looking clouds. You have to think about it, but it's not like, compared to what you're going to have to go through in Maya, it's just going to be way easier. Also, for whatever reason, I don't want this post. And so if I'm right, maybe that's all I need to do. So I'm going to save this to the drive and call this version 2 BB. Save. Go back to Maya. IBL. Version 2. Open it up. Look. That section that I didn't like is gone. It's gone here, so I know it's gone. I don't even need to render this again. This is problematic, though, right? So I have a choice to make. Do I do this in Photoshop, or do I do it in Maya by just pushing it down? I like where the clouds are going, so I'm going to do this in Photoshop. So let's take these clouds, and I'm just going to dump them into here, and hopefully no one will really know. I'm not doing it really clean. I may find out that maybe it would have been smarter to do it cleaner, but sometimes it's just better to get the section cleared out and not have to think about it. So I'm saving that. I go to Maya. I reload it on itself. I don't think I got it exactly where I want. I've locked my shot camera now. Lock it. There we go. Then I'll go to my new Okay, so it's over here that I got to get rid of stuff. This stuff's got to go. And I'm just going to clear this out. Again, I'm not being very delicate. Obvious patterns I want to get rid of, but this is probably going to be let's save it and see if that worked. And this is the problem of these images, is that you're only using a little chunk in the background. And it's why they have to be so high res. Or you want them to be high res. IBL, reload it. Okay, that's cleaner. If necessary, I'll clean this some more. I want to clean it. Just a little. Get fixed. And last but not least, there's my IBL, and I just decided I'm going to shove it down a little bit. There we go. I'm going to hit render to test it. I'll do it at 50%. That looks weird right there, but let's say that's good. So I'm going to say that the lighting is done for this, right? I've set up the lighting. I got the light falling on the scene. What's not done is texturing, right? These are lit up pretty bright. In the foreground, do you see this plane right there? It's supposed to be water, and it's gray right now. And what I'm going to do is there are ways to set up ocean shaders from scratch, and I've done it, but it's not I just steal the ocean shader, and then I tune it into spot. So I'm going to go window, and I should probably make a new video. So the next video will be ocean shader.